Hey, what's going on, you guys? In this video, we are going to be talking about Omnisphere, specifically building an 808 bass sound using this incredibly powerful, deep VST, and it's going to sound something like this. So obviously, Omnisphere can be really intimidating to people. There's a ton of great stuff to find in the preset menu and then just tweaking those presets from there. So there's nothing wrong with that. Building an 808 sound is a great type of sound to start with to learn these basic parameters and just get a little more confident moving around the screen. So the 808 that we're going to build is really just one oscillator. So on your main screen, what you want to do is start with one voice. And you could turn on your glide. This particular patch doesn't have a whole lot, just about 0.09 seconds. Some people like a much longer sounding glide. This one just happens to be shorter, so you can experiment with that as much as you want. But we're only actually using one oscillator. So when you click on the symbol here, the drop-down menu comes up. We're going to go to Classic Waveforms Square. And as you can see, there are a ton of square waves kind of spanning the whole classic history of synthesizers that Omnisphere gives you. I'm using JD800 Fat Square. The JD800 is actually a digital synthesizer, but this is a fantastic square wave. And square waves, I think, are just perfect for 808s because they already have a lot of harmonics in them. You can go ahead, pick up this oscillator, play it a few times, you'll hear all that buzziness. That basically simulates a lot of the distortion sound that people want from a more aggressive 808 patch. But essentially what we're going to do is select that oscillator and then go to our filter. Now you see it says modified here. That's because I'm actually using two filters. So the problem a lot of people have with Omnisphere is that they go to the screen and they really only play around with the surface level of what you can do with this synth. This magnifying glass with the plus sign actually brings up the more detailed features of your filters. So a lot of people don't even realize that, but every section of the synth has this magnifying glass, your modulation, oscillator, filter, envelopes. And so you want to start there. We're going to go to our filter and we're in series. We're using the Juicy 24 decibel low pass. And the low pass filter gentle 6 decibels. Now it's in series, so this is giving us all the character and this is giving us all of the darkness. It's shaving off some of those harsher high frequencies that we don't need. And of course, these are the macro features that you could see in the previous screen. They're just illustrated a little bit bigger here. Feel free to pause the video at any time to copy these settings. Obviously the cutoff is pretty low. There's a little bit of resonance. Variant is at normal. The key binding, which changes the amount of filter based on higher notes that you play, is actually pretty low, so it's not a big factor in the sound. And the envelope is set to normal. Okay, so once you get your filters set up, the next step is the envelopes, and that really is the basis of this sound. Omnisphere gives you amp envelopes. This handles the amplification of the sound, and you can copy these features. The attack is set to 0, the decay is fairly normal, 1.58, the sustain is all the way up. This allows me to hold down the sound, but if I decide to tap the sound, my release is actually pretty long, about 4.5 seconds. So that's going to allow the sound to sort of ring out if I just tap the keys. Once you get that set up, you go to your filter. This is the envelope for the filter that you just created. And these are the settings: 0 attack, 3 seconds decay, 0.27 seconds sustain, so pretty low, and 1.69 for the release. And now this is the feature that a lot of people don't know about, which is modulation. So when I click this, you see these 1, 2, 3, 4. Omnisphere gives you 4 extra envelopes, and they don't really do anything that you're going to hear right off the bat. Amp handles the amplification of the sound, filter handles the filter of the sound. But mods is something that you tag to literally anything that you see on the screen. So you can have 4 different envelopes basically handling something on the screen with automation. So what we're going to do is make 2 of them. The first envelope will look like this. And make sure your depth is set to here. And the second envelope will look like this. Feel free to pause the video at any time to copy these settings. And again, the magnifying glass is here. So this allows you to change your envelopes, not even using those rotary knobs. You can actually grab these things, move these things around, and experiment with different shapes for those envelopes. Once you start to tag them, especially to the different parameters on the synth. But what you want to make sure to do is go to the screen so you can turn off loop. By default, the modulation envelopes in Omnisphere have the loop setting on. This means they will continue to re-trigger, and in this case, we don't want that. So mod 1 and mod 2, make sure loop is off. You can see we're not even using mod 3 or mod 4, and by default, the loop setting is on. So you want to turn that off. Now, the reason why is because what the mod envelope 1 and 2 are doing is affecting the attack, or the short beginning of the sound. Mod 1 is affecting the hard sync feature, which is going to give the oscillator sort of this kick drum attack at the very start. It's very quick. You can basically tag almost anything you see on the screen to one of your mod envelopes just by right-clicking it, go to Modulate, All Mod Sources, and Mod Envelope 1. And that's essentially going to give us that sound. The second aspect of this sound is the pitch change. Pitch change can be velocity sensitive, and it gives this sort of falling effect to the attack of the sound, which is really cool for more of an aggro 808 bass. How we do that is we're using the second mod envelope, which is set again to those features with the depth all the way up. If you want to tag something to these parameters, you can obviously go to the coarse and fine on the left side of the screen and do the same thing. Right click, modulate, all mod sources, and make sure this time that this is envelope 2, mod envelope 2. And you're going to do it for both parameters. But then of course, we want to go to the modulation screen, and this gives us the detail of everything that's going on with modulation. You even get 4 pages. So the amount of modulation that you can put into a synth patch is pretty staggering. And you can see mod envelope 1, we set to the synth hard sync. The amount is set to default. But when we use mod envelope 2 on the pitch fine and pitch coarse, they're set very differently. Pitch fine relates to 1 semitone worth of pitch change. That's up very high. Pitch coarse, which is related to 12 semitones or 24, or I think even more semitones of pitch change, is set pretty low. Because if it was very high, it would get squeaky. So we're bringing it down low. We don't want this to sound like a laser, but we do want it to be fairly pitch coarse, because it gives you a real aggressive pitch change. And notice how the harder I'm hitting the keys, the more the filter opens up. And this is a big feature to when you make 808 sounds in Omnisphere. You're essentially allowed to make a 808 that is far more dynamic than if you were to just play an 808 sample in a sampler, which velocity will matter, but it will just affect loudness. It won't affect the character of the sound. And once you get these features down, that's basically it. The rest of the sound is just me adding some distortion on, so you can pause the screen, copy these features. They're fairly optional though. And lastly, in the track that I'm using, Saturn 2 by FabFilter, this is just another saturation. Again, you could swap this out with Ableton stock saturator, FL Studio saturator plugin, virtually anything, just to add a little bit of more distortion and character to the sound, so it's totally optional. 808s are wonderful to start programming with because they're fairly simple sounds, and you're going to learn about the 3 major aspects of programming synths: the oscillator, the filter, the envelopes. If you got something out of this video, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more videos. And if you're looking for free downloads, I have a link in the description to my Gumroad store. There's a bunch of great stuff there to check out. Anyway, have fun making music, and I'll see you next time.